How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the UKnowAdamTsang podcast. It's your host, Adam Tsang, and I'm with special guest, Bo Viness. Bo, how's it going?
It's going good. How are you?
Bo, so tell me a little bit about yourself, man.
Well, I'm from Ackworth. I moved to Georgia Southern moved to Statesboro when I came to Georgia Southern in 2010. Finished my undergrad in education, and I got my master's degree. Then I applied for a teaching job at Statesboro High School, straight out of grad school. Actually, I had an interview the same day of graduation, got that job, and I've been teaching at Statesboro High School for the past 5 years.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You teach what class?
I
What
teach
classes?
health and personal fitness.
Okay, very nice. And how do you like it?
I enjoy it. I coach wrestling. It's just what I'm really passionate about. I get to teach incoming freshmen about health and nutrition, and get to do a fitness course with them. So I like that as well.
Very nice. Bo, you know obviously, like we've kind of encountered each other for a period of time now. But one of the interesting parts of your story for me is that you recently made a career change. If you want to tell me a little bit about that.
That's right. I, over the past year, got my real estate license and am now an active license holder. I've been, doing some buying and selling for people in the Statesboro area for the past 6 months or
That's
so.
cool.
So
That's cool.
It's been good. It's kind of a new avenue that I'm really enjoying. So
What kind of led you to do that?
well, me and Stephanie, my wife, opened that Statesboro Elite Dance Studio 3 years ago at the end of 2017.
Okay.
And that was our first kind of venture into the business world, into the we started that business from scratch. We had saved up money, we took out loans, we got a space, we started it from absolute scratch.
That's awesome.
And we did that we had heard that she was working at Georgia Southern at the time, and we had heard that there was going to be budget cuts, and we weren't sure if she was going to get her position back just because they were cutting entire positions out of the budget. And
This is when you started?
this is when
studio?
we started the dance
Okay.
studio. That's right. She was teaching, I was teaching. Had the stable job, the steady income, all that. That's safe. Out of college, we were pretty happy. And then all of a sudden, we got news that she might not have a position, and so we sat and talked about what our options might be, and what we can do. And we had just bought a house, our first house, and we were just worried about, in general, worried about what we would do if we just lost half of our income, as a married couple. So we decided that we were going to use her many years of dance expertise, and we were going to start our dance studio. We thought there was demand. We kind of, we developed a business plan and just went for it. And then, that has gone well. We're growing the studio. Like I said, we're going into our third year. And I just feel like we are now on different schedules. She's no longer at Georgia Southern. She's, working all the time. You own the business. She's working all the time. I try to help her, but, I've just been exploring other options in order to get kind of on the same page. And some paths have led me to real estate, and so I decided I was going to get my license. And so that starting our own business was kind of the catalyst to me making that decision.
So before we kind of like jump into the real estate
Sure.
side of things, I wanted to talk a little bit about that. I think, a lot of times it's very challenging to make that leap. You go from a position that is kind of like, paying you a salary, that consistent income, and you're making the leap into something that you don't know what's going to happen. And so there's risk involved. How do people, obviously you have gone through that. How do people overcome that? What's the best way, what's the best advice that you can give someone that's in that same position?
Well, people do what they know. I mean, that's human nature. In your comfort zone. Both my parents are teachers. Both Stephanie's parents are teachers. We have very little experience with entrepreneurship in our families. Nobody growing up was somebody we could look to for that kind of exposure. And so, not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just human nature. So I think most people will tend to just do what they know, to kind of stay in that comfort zone. We were forced to make a decision just because Stephanie was going to be forced to
So you knew that at some point that she was no longer going to be at Georgia Southern.
Well, it turned out that she did get her position renewed.
Okay.
That year.
Okay.
And that was, like I said, 3 years ago. And due to the budget cuts from COVID and the merger with Armstrong, the position got eliminated anyway.
Gotcha.
So in reality, in essence, we did what we set out to do. We, started the business in case she lost her position. She ended up actually losing the position, through no fault of her own, just the budget cuts, but we are prepared now. And
Nice.
so, it was still scary, still a risk, but we did what we set out to do.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And so that was kind of like, the step that took you moving towards, I guess, entrepreneurship. When did, I guess, the whole real estate thing happen for you?
Well, I've been interested in real estate. We bought and sold our first house, and we did some improvements on it. We made some money on it, and it kind of got the spark going. My brother-in-law has done some real estate investing himself, so I've done some just kind of picking his brain and seeing how that works. And anyway, I met Paul Newman through
Paul Newman. Paul Newman.
Yeah, so I met
all roads lead back to Paul Newman. That guy.
That's right.
Okay, so you met him.
I met him through the Dancing with the Stars.
Very nice.
And at a fundraiser, and we got to talking, and he was like, you're welcome to come shadow me, and come kind of see what it's like and see what it would take. And so I took him up on it and decided that I did want to pursue that a little bit and see where it would take me. So I decided to go ahead and purchase the class and get started on that path.
So what period of time? So we're talking in 3 months ago, 6 months ago?
I started taking the class in late December. Mm-hmm. You have to take a pre-exam course that's a certain amount of credit hours. Or
is this all online?
It's online.
Okay.
Oh, you can it can be either or,
Okay.
but I did the online. But I did that in December. But before that, there was probably a year where I was trying to formulate what it would look like. Mm-hmm. And I'm still, teaching, and I'm still, involved with the business. And so, I was trying to figure out what it would look like. And so over that year, I decided, I had kind of worked some things out, decided to purchase it. And then over about a 2-month period, took the course, passed the exam, all the examinations, got sponsored by Statesboro Real Estate, and I'm now a agent with them. So
awesome! Congratulations on that.
Thanks.
Walk me through kind of like the experience of that year. So you had a year of kind of, I guess, going back and forth, trying to formulate, as you said, what that looked like.
Yeah, I mean, it's scary. I had the experience from the dance studio. It's scary. You have to, really take on some risk. It costs several $1,000s just to get your license in the state of Georgia and pay all your dues and everything like that. But just going back to the studio, we had already at that point, we were paying off loans that we'd taken out to renovate at the very beginning and create the dance studio. And it's risky. It's anytime you take a step out, you have financial risk, you have a lot of stress, a lot of work. And so I was just trying to make sure we were in a financial place that we could take on that risk and formulate a plan. I like to have a plan. So
people often talk about there's some moment in there that you're like, all right, this is going to be the move, right? Did you have that, or was there a moment that you were like, all right, let's make this happen? Can you recall?
I don't know if there was a particular trigger, but I always think about General Patton said, a good plan executed violently right now beats a perfect plan next week. So I'm a big believer in just being decisive, and decisions you make are going to open up doors. Mm-hmm. Based on it gets you going. And whether that might be the path you finish on, it may not be, but decided I was going to, I've been talking about this, I've been looking at it, I've been researching, I'm as informed as I'm ever going to be. At some point, you've got to take the step or not. And so I just had some time off of school during that break. I do remember it was our Christmas break, and I had come back from a wrestling tournament on that Saturday, and on that Sunday, I decided I was going to start the course because I only had 1 day off a week on that, during that coaching season. So, yeah, I mean, sometimes you just need to make a decision that you think is good and go with it.
I honestly believe that, I tell my team all the time, it's about the actions, right? I mean, you can think about it all you want, but the moment that you take that first step, that's what everything says, right? That first step is the hardest thing.
Yep.
So, so you took that step and then you moved forward. What was after that? So you started the course. The course lasted how long for you?
It took me about 6 weeks.
And during the 6 weeks, were you also working as a teacher?
I
on
was
the
still,
side?
yeah, I was still
Okay.
teaching, coaching,
Juggling both.
and the dance studio stuff.
And the dance studio, okay.
Not to mention our other, we work also with our other family, my brother-in-law's business that they've started, and we help them with that in the spring as well. So, it wasn't I was committed to it, but it did take me a little bit.
So talk to me about, I guess, the thing that comes to mind is there were certain sacrifices in there, meaning sacrifices of time, just to say the least, right?
That's right.
I mean, there's certain things that you had to give up in order to achieve that goal, right? And then for you, so what were those things? What did that look like for you?
Well, there's definitely sleep sacrifices, right?
Okay. Don't sleep, everybody. Don't do that. All right.
That's right. I mean, there just is. You got to get up early. You got to stay up a little bit late. And there's definitely time sacrifices. You don't get to go on every vacation that you want to go on. There's, you don't get to hang out with your friends on the late, Friday night or whatever, because you've got things you need to do. And then there's, of course, financial sacrifices in the same way. We don't, there's plenty of times where we're not going out to eat. We're not, going on trips or whatever. So that's a social and a financial, limit there. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, those are the three things that you definitely notice when you're doing these things. I go months without seeing my good friends, and just have to sometimes carve out a minute to hang out and relax.
So all of this is really interesting. We caught up to kind of January, February now. So at this point, you have your license. Like you said, 6 weeks. So you already secured the license.
So end of February, I was licensed and ready to go.
And then immediately after that, what happened?
And pretty immediately afterwards, the entire world decides they're going to shut down. So, we had heard of the coronavirus, but of course we had no idea that it would be this. We thought it was going to be another, Ebola or bird flu or something that is a blip on the radar, and we just moved right past. So it definitely was very interesting. That came again with some owning the dance, running the dance studio.
Sure.
Schools are shutting down. We're having to cancel classes and refund money, and it's just a struggle. It's a hard time to be a small business owner at that time. And of course, luckily, I'm still employed by the school, so
okay.
I'm teaching virtually and I'm doing those things and still receiving my salary for that. But yeah, it's definitely was a stressor right at the beginning. So
well, I think that's huge, because even though you have started this journey down real estate, you actually still have some responsibilities in regards to teaching and that sort of thing. So you're actually creating two streams of income at the time, right? So that's a great move.
It's two streams of income. It's also two full-time careers.
That's
so
right.
School ends at 4, and I'm showing houses or doing whatever I need to do after that, sometimes, until 9 or 10 at night. So there's definitely some sacrificing there.
I'm hearing the hustle mentality, right? Get off at work and then you go straight into work.
That's right.
Very nice. So for you, why was it real estate?
I think I naturally gravitate to it. Like I said, we bought and sold our first house. That was just we bought it, we fixed it up a little bit, the market appreciated, we sold the house, we got a check at closing, and I was like, wow, that's, I was like, that was not that bad. We lived here for 2 years, and then we sold the house, and, now we're going to use this to pay off some loans or whatever, and down payment on another house. And I was like, well, that was kind of kind of interesting. And, my brother-in-law, who I obviously met after we got married, obviously, he had, like I said, he owned some rental properties. He had done some flips. He had done some, as a kind of a side income for him, but he had done about 30 transactions. And so I was kind of picking his brains about, just what he looks for, and how his process worked with that. And so I just found it very interesting and found it as, something that I was willing to work a little bit on. So that's how I kind of got started down the real estate path. And then, of course, my path crossed with Paul, and that just is what kind of led me to becoming an agent.
Listen to what the universe is telling you, I guess, right?
Sometimes it comes to you, when the big Paul Newman comes right up to you and says you can come shadow him for a little bit. I definitely wanted to take him up on that. So.
How's that experience been, working with Paul Newman?
Oh, it's been fantastic. I can't imagine a better scenario for any agent, but especially a new agent. He's the team that we have over there is just super supportive. Amazing. I feel right at home. They've helped me out. I can't even describe how much. Mm-hmm. So it's been great.
For someone that's wanting to start down this path, what are 3 things that you would tell them? In the path, let's do real estate. So, like, if you want to get into real estate, what are 3 things that you think that you need to do?
Well, we can focus on real estate, but I really think it's very similar to. It doesn't matter what you're going to do.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
It doesn't matter if you're going to open a dance studio, if you're going to become a real estate agent, if you're going to, do whatever. I think, you have to. I think it's very similar. I think, I don't think the steps are that different. First off, I think you need to really get your financials in order. I remember being in college and obviously being very, kind of paycheck to paycheck. I had a small, $8 an hour job. And
what were you doing?
I was driving, delivering drugs, medical drugs,
Okay.
illegal drugs, medicine. I guess I should have said medicine, not drugs.
Good stuff.
For a pharmacy here.
Uh-huh.
And so I would drive,
in Statesboro?
Yeah,
that's cool.
It's in Statesboro, but we would deliver all over to, Augusta, St. Simon's.
That far out?
Yeah.
Really?
Because they would contract with like group homes or
Okay.
Retirement homes, and we would take shipments.
Not individuals, though, I guess. Right?
No, it was a corporate.
Okay,
like,
gotcha,
yeah,
gotcha.
yeah, not like a
Yeah,
CVS or anything like that. So, but I just remember saving up and hitting that first. I remember I had a goal that. Because my truck broke down, we sold the truck for whatever it was worth because I couldn't afford to fix it. I was leasing a car. I did not have my stuff in order, and I just remember thinking, like, if anything really went wrong, because I couldn't afford to fix my truck, so I sold it. And I leased a car for like $200 a month, whatever, and it's just basically as cheap as I could find in a gas-efficient car. And I just remember thinking, if anything else goes wrong, I really don't know what I'm going to do. Because I really, my parents, very supportive, but I wasn't trying to call them and say, I don't have any other option but for you to send me money, at this point, the senior year in college. And I just remember thinking, like, I need to start saving up money. So I really started looking at, like, how much I was spending at the bar, how much I was spending eating out, and stopping eating out when I was working and doing things like that. And so I remember when I first saved the $1,000 in my savings or my checking account or whatever, and I saw that 4th digit, I just went, man, that feels really good. And I was like, just immediately, I was like, all right, now I want to get 2,000. And
That's
then,
right.
and it just kind of like sparked up until that point, I had not been really educated or thinking about financials as much. I just was kind of going through college, going through, just not, it wasn't a big priority for me. So, but if I didn't start at that time, and, and that's about the time, I had met Stephanie junior year, and we were in a long-term relationship at that point. I'm not sure if we were engaged at that point, but we were kind of on the same page. She was bartending, and I remember we were just talking about finances and stuff like that, and we're both on the same page as far as, trying to save, be a little frugal, and so we started trying to hit financial goals like that. And so I think if we didn't do that, then we would never have been in a place in just 2 or 3 years to be starting and investing in our own business. And so I think, you know, you just have to, I didn't mean to go on like a huge tangent on this
important.
first thing, but yeah, I think just getting your financial, you know, self in order. You know, like we weren't in great shape. We both had student loans. You know, like I said, I was leasing a car. We were renting a house. We didn't have any assets. We were just all debt. You know, but just kind of getting your budget in line is just, and having some self-control and some discipline financially will let you take those risks when you're ready to take those risks. So
that's important, right? So getting your finances in order.
Yeah.
What's number 2? Would you say?
I hate to repeat myself, but I think just having that discipline, you know, be ready to sacrifice, and having that discipline is a really big. Sometimes you can't do the things that you want to do. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you don't get to, you know, do the things your friends are doing, and you know, sometimes you've got to say no to people's face. You know, say no to invitations and say no to whatever it is. I mean, you know, just in recent memory, I know that me and Stephanie have, you know, at this point, we're still a new business. You know, we're under 5 years, and it's, you know, there's a high percentage of businesses that fail during that time, and a lot of it is just due to spending being out of control. And so, I mean, I can, you know, in recent memory, I know that we've said no to certain vacations and certain, you know, just things, you know, just driving the old car until, you know, with no payment, because that's, you know, that's the responsible thing to do. And so you have to be willing to sacrifice a little bit if you want that you got to have that long-term goal in mind.
Where does your discipline come from?
You have to keep your goals in focus,
Okay.
you know, because it's a long-term goal. You know,
Sure.
It's not going to happen, and no matter what you do, you can't do it all in a year. You know, you're talking about if you're talking about a career change, or, you know, like Stephanie was, or having this business support you 100% for the rest of your life, and you're not going to have a pension, and you're not going to, you know, you have to plan for those things. And so it has to be important to you every day, and you have to keep your long-term goals in like a short-term focus, and just keep it, you know, big picture. And I think a lot of, I can honestly say a lot of my self-discipline and my habits that I formed came from my wrestling career, because I say career loosely. It was not much of a career. There's not much accolades. But the time that I spent wrestling, I was usually especially my junior and senior year, I was cutting weight, and I had to make a certain, you know, weight, and you're hungry at that time. And I'm in the car on a Friday night, and I've got to weigh in on Saturday morning, and I'm in a car with my friends, and they're going through the McDonald's drive-through, and I'm hungry. I have not eaten today. I know that I have to go home and I have to run to lose more weight before the morning, but I'm spending this time, you know, hanging out, and I always think about it, and I'm in the car, my girlfriend's next to me, my friends are in the front seat, and they're like, "Bo, do you want anything?" And I did want something. I wanted a lot. I wanted to eat the whole menu, but what's important to me was not important to my friends, and vice versa. So I had to weigh in the next morning. So you got to say no. And then, you know, I still remember this. My girlfriend hands me her hamburger and says, "Hold this. I got to run in. They didn't give me something." And she hands it to me, and I just remember looking at it, and I'm like, I could just take a bite of this, you know, and you can't do it because you have that long-term goal, so you have to keep it in focus. So I think about that.
That's huge.
Those nights, you know, and that keeps me, that's where I learned some habits that are, you know, which is why that's why I love coaching wrestling. You know, I believe it teaches, like, you know, discipline and things that you can take on through your life. But you got to stay focused, you know, even though you're hungry, you may not be able to eat right now. You know, I could eat. I took a bunch of leftovers for Saturday morning after the weigh-ins, you know, and that's how I have to look at it. So
how much sweeter was like that victory, like at the moment that you like delayed that satisfaction, right? So like what you're talking about is delayed gratification.
That's right.
Right? And not sacrificing for what you have now. So for the future, it looks that much better.
That's right. I still like my Thanksgiving stuffing cold.
Yeah?
Okay, because I'm used to eating it refrigerated in my bag after weigh-ins the Saturday after Thanksgiving, because we always would wrestle on that Saturday after Thanksgiving. And so I would never be able to eat, that Thanksgiving dinner like I wanted to. I'd pack it up, put it in the fridge, and then Saturday morning I'm eating it cold in the bleachers of some high school. And I still love leftover Thanksgiving. So it's much better when you can look back and say, I did what I need to do. Look where I'm at now, and you still get it's better. It's better. So that's definitely where I can attribute a lot of my habits from.
And now a word from our sponsors.
Make the move, make the right move, make the move, make the move, make the right move, make the move. What's the move? PMG the move. Yo, what I tell you, you heard it here first. Give us a call. We'll be waiting.
All right, I'm back with Bo, and tell me a little bit about. So we left off on the two things we have. Get your finances in order, and then the second thing is discipline, delayed gratification. And what do you think is that third thing that you'd like someone that wants to kind of move into owning their own business, so forth and so on? What do you think that third thing is?
I think on top of those two things, and I would include that, be willing to work hard in that discipline, because just because you have discipline, you're not going to be motivated every day, and that's what I tell, my kids that I coach, you're not going to be motivated every day, but that discipline will help you, work hard when you're not feeling motivated. So, including that in that point number two. And I think number three is you got to have a goal and have a plan, and it doesn't have to be the perfect, like we talked about earlier, it can be a good decision and not a great decision. It may not be the path you finish on, but you got to have at least like a outline and at least a goal that you may change direction, and you may shift, your priorities may shift, your goals may shift, but you got to be setting goals, long-term, short-term. When I got my real estate license, I had a goal to just do $1 million in sales, which is not very, it's not very much, but especially with the COVID shutdown and being a new agent with no existing client list and, just really unsure about how it was going to go. I just wanted to, do $1 million in sales. And I just felt like that was a good goal. Well, of course, thanks to Paul and the great team at Statesboro Real Estate helping me and just really helping me along. I've ended up putting $1 million under contract in 1 month.
What?
Not in my first month.
Sure.
It took 3 months of really hustling and kind of learning and contracts falling through and just some hard things. But I put $1 million over, like 1.3 under contract in 1 month.
That's awesome.
And so that was great. I was like, wow, and this was my summer break from school. So, I didn't have any school responsibilities, couldn't have any wrestling practice due to COVID. So I was able to really commit to it. And then, the key is not being satisfied, right? So I hit that goal and that was great, but I was like, okay, well now I need to move the goalpost, because if you just say, I did it, don't be complacent. So, I have up in my wrestling room something that my coach always was telling us, is that never be satisfied. Never be satisfied. You can hang your medals up on the wall and you can look back and say, that was great what I did, but you just can't be satisfied. Don't be satisfied with just doing what you originally set out. I didn't know anything when I set that goal of $1 million. I just thought it sounded cool, to do $1 million in
That's
sales.
right.
And
it sounds very cool, actually.
It does sound cool.
Congratulations on that.
Well, so it's not. It turns out it's not very much. It's in the world of real estate. I mean, that's just a sales price. It doesn't mean anything. I just thought it sounded cool. So you have to be willing to self-assess, reassess, and move the goalpost for yourself and keep challenging yourself. You can't ever be satisfied.
So what's that next goal for you? I mean, what does that look like?
Well, sales wise, I just decided that I was going to triple it. So I was like, all right,
Nice.
I'm going to get to 3 million.
Okay.
And and then past that, my goal is to become, get myself into that top 10, because, we have a ranking based on sales where,
Okay.
where you'll find Paul at the top.
Okay.
And, but it stays for
Paul, Bo's coming for you, baby. You heard it here first.
And so, I just long term, I'm like, why not, shoot for that top 10 in the region there, and which States for Real Estate has 3 realtors in the top 10 already. So, I just want to get up in there. And you just got to keep reassessing. If something's not working, and I think with the dance studio, with all the, the entrepreneurship, just ventures that we've been a part of, I guess in any aspect, you have to be willing to like self-assess and be like, this isn't working, or this is working, and need to, instead of, if you're doing 5 different things and only one of them is working, then, shift more into what is working. And it's just, I'm a big believer in that self-assessment, because too many times you can get caught in that sunken cost fallacy, right? Where you've invested, you've invested time, effort, money, for years sometimes, lots of money, and you feel like, oh, I've got to keep pumping it in there, or I have to keep going because look what I've already invested. And that's the sunken, that's the sunken cost fallacy, that you continuing to just grind on these things that aren't working just because you're already invested. Oh, I've already put this much time, I've already put this much money, so I have to keep going with it. I mean, I spent 4 years undergrad, a summer to summer grad school, 5 years of teaching, and if it's not satisfying me if I can't see myself doing it 30 years or moving in the direction I want to move, then sometimes you have to cut your losses. And, I'm not saying that that's right now, but I just, with Stephanie running the business, and, with us being always on the move and needing to be a little bit less rigid in the schedule, I don't see myself in 30 years still teaching, just because it doesn't fit with our kind of the work we have to do as business owners. So, and I think being a realtor is just being a small business, right? I'm just my own small business, so I've got to do the same things on that end. So
you speak of that, and I wanted to kind of have a point in here is, how do you identify? So obviously there were some factors in there that, it didn't give you the freedom that you wanted. It didn't give you certain things that you were looking for in your life. But how does one identify the fact that, okay, this is no longer serving me?
I think you just know. I think if you're getting up in the morning and doing what you're doing, and if you're unsatisfied, then I think you just know. You have that feeling. When we got married and came out of college, we both were on teaching schedules, and it was great. And of course, we were forced to make that change, right? We were forced, the uncertainty of her position forced us into making that change. But here we are. So 5 years later, we are in a different scenario, and so our schedules now aren't matching up. I'm not where I want to be as far as flexibility and being able to do the things I need to do to run all the businesses that we need to do, and so that's part of it. But I think you just have that feeling, and a lot of people are unhappy with their job, and that doesn't mean you should just like throw it all up. You still need to make sure your finances are in order.
That's
you're
right.
ready to sacrifice, and you have a plan. But if you've done all of those things and you feel comfortable, then I would encourage people to do that.
Bo, absolutely inspired by your story. Truly, I mean, we had spoken before about real estate and that sort of thing, and I'm always about pushing people. I'm always like, "Yo, go for it!" Like, yeah,
Yes,
this
I
is
know.
fun, right? Like, this is great. But absolutely inspired by your motivation, your discipline. your ability to say no to certain things. And I think that that's going to serve you well moving into the future as well. For the audience out there, if you need to purchase a home, where do we find Bo?
You can find me on Facebook. You can email me at bo@bystatesboro.com. You can text me or call me at 678-446-6493. You can send me a text.
That's the number, guys.
That's right. But yeah, or you can just find me on Statesboro Real Estate's website as well. So
Absolutely. Well, Bo, I wanted to thank you for your time. Anything else you would like the audience to know?
Just, if you've done those three things, if you have a plan, if you're willing to sacrifice, and you've got your finances in order, I would encourage you to, follow your dreams. Don't let your dreams be dreams,
Amen to that. Thank you very much, Bo. We'll catch you guys on the flip side, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks.